button in the top. You just play around with that. You can find a setting you like. Small, and then you only see the person speaking, and then the other view is so you can see everybody at once. Mayor, this is your cue.
Okay, so we're going to call to order January 4, 2021, Gold Hill City Council. Click. Do we do a virtual Pledge of Allegiance?
We do the roll call first, though. Mayor Studebaker.
Here.
Councilor Bescheid.
Here.
Councilor Hinckley.
Here.
Councilor Rigney.
Here.
Councilor Palmer.
Here.
Councilor Wilson.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. And yes, we do a virtual Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. All stand, do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
To the flag
of the United
Of the
States
of the United States of America.
and to the republic
To the republic
stands
for which it stands,
one nation,
One nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
and justice for all.
We are never going to get that down.
You got through it though. Okay. First item on our agenda. Agenda adjustments. I believe there are none.
There are none.
Announcements, awards, and proclamations. Swearing in of elected officials.
All right, so I have a bunch of oaths of office here. And I will start by swearing in the mayor. Mayor, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Brad Studebaker, solemnly swear
I, Brad Studebaker, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Gold Hill,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Gold Hill,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of mayor for the city of Gold Hill,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of mayor for the city of Gold Hill,
to which I have been elected.
to which I've been elected.
That's it.
Yep.
Congratulations, Mayor.
Yippee.
There you go, Brad.
Okay, we're going to move on to counselors. Let's see, I have Janet on top. Janet, please raise your right hand. I, Janet Wilson, solemnly swear
I, Janet Wilson, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Gold Hill,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Gold Hill,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of city councilor for the city of Gold Hill, to which I've been elected. Put too many gaps in it last time.
I
Did you get all that?
No. And that
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of city councilor for the city of Gold Hill,
Councilor of the city of Gold Hill,
to which I have been elected.
to which I have been elected.
All right. Thank you, Janet.
Congratulations, Janet.
Okay, let's see. Next is Malia. Malia, please raise your right hand. I, Malia Bescheid, solemnly swear
I, Malia Bescheid, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
Did I see the second page?
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of City Councilor for the City of Gold Hill, to which I have been elected.
I'll try. I will faithfully discharge the duties of the counselor of the City of Gold Hill, to which I have been elected.
Close enough. Congratulations. All right, next we have Bill. Bill, I can't see you, but raise your right hand.
My hand is up.
All right. Repeat after me. I, Bill Rigney, solemnly swear
I, Bill Rigney, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as City Councilor of Gold Hill, to which I have been elected.
and I will faithfully discharge my duties as City Council of Gold Hill, to which I have been duly elected.
Perfect. Congratulations, Bill.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right. Webmaster, I believe we have the judge waiting in the wings. Is that true? Can we let her in the meeting? Okay. Oh, there she is. Jen, if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic. Jen, can you hear me? Hey, you want to unmute your mic?
Is that true? Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Better in the meeting. All right. Are you ready? Please raise your right hand. I, Jen Zametti, solemnly swear
I, Jen Zametti, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gold Hill,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of municipal judge for the City of Gold Hill, to which I have been elected.
and I will faithfully discharge the duties for the position of municipal judge for the City of Gold Hill, to which I have been elected.
Ooh, good job.
Good job.
Thank you, Judge Zametti.
Thank you.
Yay, we have a judge.
Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you.
That's everyone. You're all sworn in. We are good to go for another few years. Well, that's not true. We still have a vacancy.
Till next year.
We'll get there, though.
Okay, we're now open for public input. Do we have anyone in the queue for input, Jessica?
We do not.
Okay, we'll move on to 5, the public hearing. Appeal of Planning Commission's denial of variance request for the relief of standards from City of Gold Hill, Table 16.2.110 for property located at 421st Avenue, Gold Hill. And I will
Right,
use
so-
myself from this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You can mute yourself and turn your video off.
Okay.
What's that? Oh, yes, and you can bring
Yes.
Ryan in now. And as council president, I have already given Councilor Palmer the script to use for the public hearing, so he will be leading us in that. As soon as
You
we get
did?
Ryan in here.
There he is. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. I can hear you. Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Hear you.
All right. Now, the formalities on this, does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the council to this hearing?
Oh, wait, you can't skip the opening statement. Sorry.
Brad did the opening statement.
No, he just read what was on the agenda. Yours is a little bit more thorough than that.
Okay.
He just read the
Okay.
title. So you can read the opening statement.
The opening statement.
It's just the first paragraph at the top of that script I gave you.
Right. It's the public hearing to consider an appeal to the Planning Commission's denial of the variance of the standard table 17.20.110A, land use permitted in the R2 for property located at 421st Ave. The parcels are legally described as 36-3W-22BB, tax lot 5701. The owner and applicant of Mighty Rogue Homes, LLC. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the council to this hearing at matter? No one?
Before we carry on, the applicant representative should be on the phone line.
Okay, so is he on the phone
If
line?
he's there, we should go ahead and pull him in, but I don't know if he's called in yet.
He's pulling him in now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so he's there, so you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, Councilor Palmer, you may continue.
All right, so does anyone wish to object to the jurisdiction of the council to hear this matter? I take that as no one. Does any counselor wish to make any disclosure or abstain from participating or voting in this matter because of possible financial gain resulting in this application, because you own property within the area entitled to receive notice of this hearing, because you have direct private interest in the proposal, or because you have determined you cannot be impartial? I'm taking that as a no.
No.
Does any
No.
counselor need to declare a prior contact with the applicant or any party involved in this hearing? If so, please state with whom you had contact and what was said. If any counselor declares an ex parte communication state, the parties will have the right to rebut the substance of this communication during their testimony at this hearing. Everybody understands that, right? Okay.
Yes.
As always, I would like to declare that I have discussed this issue with Jessica for clarification of the issues, and it was just in discussing the papers that were presented to everyone.
Yes, and I would like to say, as a matter of public record, that we had discussed this before. I had, at a public meeting, admitted that I had an ex parte meeting with the doctor at said property to discuss the conditions of the property, but not to discuss any of the conditions of the variances or any approvals or anything like that.
Hmm.
Again, that was a matter of public record at a meeting several meetings ago.
Right. Anyone else?
I also said several meetings ago that I've driven by the property and also spoke to the neighbor on the north side of the property.
Okay, well, that answers one of the next question is, has any counselors viewed the property? Do you have any evidence gained from the visit that you want to state for the record? And
No.
Bill, and Malia, you just stated that you.
No.
I have viewed
Okay.
the property in a drive-by, but I didn't stop at the property. I didn't discuss the property there.
I have I've viewed the property as well as walked the dimensions of it and the layout, and I believe that everything that was on the plan would fit on the property, and that much I will say it would fit neatly. But that's about all I really gleaned from the touring the property, as well as the workmanship was quite well too. What had been done.
I've walked past the property. That's about it.
Well, I did notice, and I talked with Jessica today, that that this property is already hooked up for water and sewer. So we need to keep that in mind, that before this council even came about, prior councils had passed, which we're going to let Ryan explain that in his report. So at this time, can we have the staff report?
Certainly. Councilor Palmer and the rest of the council, again, this is Ryan Nolan for the record, contract planner from Rogue Valley Council of Governments. So a brief review of the history of this scenario. The applicant came in with a site plan for approval. Staff quickly looked it over and approved it, and that was in error. It was an application for 4 dwelling units, and the site specifically would allow up to 2 in the zone. A single family home has to have 3,000 square feet of space, and up to 2 dwellings are allowed in the R2 zone if there's 5,000 square feet of space. Mm-hmm. This particular lot has 4,791.6 square feet. So I, as staff, approved the initial application. It came back and with more detail for the county, and I stamped all of that. They started work, started getting some of the permits. I think staff, I don't know if they were notified by a neighbor or somehow became aware that what was thought to be 2 units was 4 units, and asked the developer to stop working. Work was stopped. I think that may have gone back and forth a couple of times. The applicant came to the city council with a request to grant a variance to allow 4 dwelling units on the property. The city council at that time took no action, stating that the original approval was a city action and they weren't going to act on the variance. So then the applicant went back and filed a request for a variance with the Planning Commission. At this time, the Planning Commission just started. So the Planning Commission heard the request to allow 4 dwelling units on the site. Planning Commission, after hearing the testimony, essentially their decision was that there was not a specific extraordinary circumstance that applied to that lot, and that they felt that the impact to the neighborhood would be detrimental, specifically based on traffic. So that was a vote of 4-1 by the Planning Commission. The applicant has the right to appeal that decision to the city council. So that's where we are tonight. So the standard that we're looking at is in section 1720.110A, which talks about land uses permitted in the R2 zone. And again, as I said, it specifically says that there can be 1 house if the lot has 3,000 square feet of space, and 2 houses if the lot has 5,000 square feet of space. This lot has 4,791.6 square feet of space, and the applicant is asking the city for a variance so that they can have 4 dwellings on the site. So in asking for a variance, our code has 3 criteria that the applicant has to meet. So the first one, criteria A, states there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the land, building, or use referred to in the application, which circumstances or conditions do not apply generally to land, buildings, or uses in the same district. The applicant can talk about this some, but it appears that what might potentially be considered extraordinary, and the council can be the judge of that, is that the applicant was given approval to start work, started work, took out payments, took out permits for water and sewer connections, etc. So the lot itself is a fairly small, old, existing lot that has a pre-existing non-conforming building that's too close to a setback, but there's nothing exceptionally different about the individual lot. You might consider that the prior approval in error by me, the planning staff, would be an extraordinary circumstance, but that's a judgment call for the city council in this case. B, the next criteria. Granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner. The property is developed. There was an existing, at some point it was one dwelling unit, it was converted to two at some point that's pre-existing. So there is some development that's taken place. Again, that's the choice of the city. Is this necessary in order for the property owner to utilize the property? Then C, the next criteria. Granting of such application will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be outweighed by the adverse effects to the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the property of the applicant, and will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in said neighborhood. As you have read in the previous meeting and in letters and testimony received, there are definitely some neighbors who are concerned about the number of units. I think the main concern is regarding to traffic. The applicant, can make statements regarding their parking layout and the size of the apartments that they're proposing. So those are the three criteria that a variance is weighed against. The Planning Commission looked at these three criteria and found that the applicant did not meet them and denied the application on a vote of 4-1. So tonight, your job is to determine if you think the Planning Commission reviewed those criteria and the application correctly, or if they overlooked something or made a choice that you disagree with. So your choice as a city council is to affirm the Planning Commission decision, which would be agreeing that the applicant did not meet the criteria, and that would leave it as a denied request. Or you could overturn the Planning Commission decision if you find that those three criteria are met. And if you do, you need to state how you think that the Planning Commission was in error and how you see that all three criteria are met. And the third option, you could amend the denial, which would be something like, we're going to amend the complete denial of the request and allow 3 units rather than 4, something that is an alternative to outright denial. And if you do that, you have to base your decision again on something you found in the 3 criteria. So I hope that's a complete explanation of where we are in the process. If there are any questions, I would be happy to try to answer those.
Ryan, I have a question. You said that he took out permits for the water and sewer. So how many lines does he have on that property for hookups?
I can answer that one. So the lot already had 1 existing hookup, and they've installed 3 more for a total of 4. They have all been installed because back then we didn't know about this mess.
Right.
So they have already been installed. There are 4 total.
Okay.
Can I ask, when were those meters approved?
Yeah, well, I mean, after Brian signed off on it, I think those were installed early in 2020. I was going to say this year, but it's not this year anymore. Early in
So it was not by
it was
a
before all of
previous
this
council.
happened. Before any of this came to a light, we were still under the impression that because Ryan signed it, they were good to go. We didn't realize yet. So, and in fact, that is what they are arguing. we created the need for a variance request by proceeding down the path we went down in the first place.
Yeah.
And Danielle, it was a different committee that was on that because we just put in three new members. So my point is I remember that being there, and I know, Danielle, you were there too when we voted on this, but I had no idea that they went ahead and put in that many meters. Could you, yeah, it's.
I was just trying to make sure it wasn't like a previous administration from like 6 years ago.
I'm just saying
no,
it
it
was
wasn't from
a
6 years
different
ago.
council.
It was
We had-
after they had their site plans approved, but
Yeah.
before we found out they were approved in error.
Yeah. My point of view on this is,
Well, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have to follow the script. We're not to the discussion point yet.
okay, I'm sorry.
If there are any other questions that I can help answer, I'd be happy to. And then the next course again would be I think the applicant would speak next.
Yes.
I just have a idiotic question. Now, who's doing the permitting and inspection? Inspection on the meters and the is that us or was that the county?
When it comes to meters, those all belong to the city. And we typically do the installs ourselves. I mean, not always, but
Okay.
someone we hire.
But that permit process goes through the city and not the county?
Yeah, there's no permit for a water meter. You just have to pay the SDC fees and the construction costs.
Okay.
And you have to
I
have
see.
been approved to build there in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's all part of the package. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Any other-
is this where we ask the applicant or a representative to come forward and speak, Jessica?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, at this time, do we have Tom?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mr. Brooks? Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you have to keep your presentation under 15 minutes if you would, please.
I'll try to go real short.
Okay.
I'm going to do my little history, just to the overview here on it, similar to what Ryan just gave. But so we bought this piece of property in March in 19. Proceeded and we went through and we had a licensed contractor submit all the plans, plot plans, everything that the city requires, the county requires, was submitted in an accurate and complete form. Everything that's required to the city, which was a different city manager the city had at that time. So no blame where that's going from. But that went to, and then we got the sign off from the city planner. And also the county. We took all our plans, all the requirements, permits and fees were all paid for construction. SDCs were paid for the hookups, the sewer, and the water hookups. We got to about a 95% completion rate of the remodel of the garage, which turns the 1 unit into 2 units. The sewer hookups, just a note that we did do when I was talking to the city manager, the statement was made that it costs the city more than what they charge us to do the water hookups and sewer hookups. So it was not the city contractors that put those in. I said I'd pay for that just to save that loss to the city. So I took that on myself, and we did put those in. This was all before any of this stoppage was done, but we did get a request from the city manager. There was a complaint. So we stopped the project until it could be addressed. And that's gone through. We stopped and started, stopped and started, stopped again 3 times, all relatively short term on that. So that's where we are now. We have 95% of the construction done on the remodel. the plumbing is run out to the proposed site for the second building on there now. The sewer is not. The sewer is just still right at the street. You guys saw the pipe that's going straight up. But the water's over there. So that's kind of a history from our perspective. You know, we were all on the okay, you know, I've done other building, but that's what we do. That's the process you go through. Nothing was missing. It was all there. Nolan, you know, was right. I mean, he missed it. You know, we misinterpreted it. It wasn't a miss on our part. We misinterpreted what the statutes say in Gold Hill. But anyways, they all clearly show what we have. The 4 units are on there, 2 buildings, 1 remodel, 1 brand new building. That's all was submitted and all signed off. So just to address the complaints that we've heard, the parking, you know, was a big complaint. The parking, if you looked at the plans, accommodated, you know, 8 parking spots with no problem. Traffic flow, if anybody lives in that section of the town, know that traffic does not have a heavy flow, very minor. We did our own little traffic flow study on both ends of that block, and it's literally just minimal. So it's the traffic, which is Ryan just stated was Nolan Ryan just stated was a big thing. It's not a big thing. We don't have a huge mass of traffic off the main street, Gold Hill. We don't even have it on the main street. Right? So that's kind of a nebulous objection. You know, as far as the real estate valuations and stuff, it's gonna raise everybody's deal. I don't build, you know, sloppy stuff, and I keep them well maintained. I'm just kind of going through some notes here. You know, so what it comes down to in my eyes is, what does the city want to do about the city of Gold Hill? What do they need? What do they want? Do we want a higher density, more low-end rentable spaces? And these spaces are 1 bedroom, 1 bath, kitchen. They're nice little areas, nice little living room. Basically, it's a single person dwelling, you know, 2-person at max. You know, they're under 500 square foot apiece. So it's not even going to be like putting a bigger unit in there and having a whole family and kids and 8 cars or whatever that so often is on that street. So that I think the traffic is a minimal thing on that, but it's a benefit for the city, tax-wise, water, right? Water money for the city's water and sewer. It's just a huge positive on there. I don't know what else to say on the whole thing. I mean, the city, and they've gone through this the last couple years. We have a history of saying we want a higher density, more growth in the city of Gold Hill. You know, we have the ADU things we did. We did the changing of the zoning down there at the cement plant. I mean, the push is, how do we grow the city? And it's a positive for the city. You know, increase in taxes, increase in utility utilization, increase for local business. You know, it's a positive. All those are positive things for the city on there. So it's affordable housing is what it's all about, you know. So to meet the criteria that, you know, Nolan was just talking about, you know, the unusual circumstances, we're 90% done with one. We got utilities and everything in on the other. I mean, it's got over $100,000 in this thing now. So to stop it, it's kind of interesting how we would stop it. Tear out the existing remodel we just did and put it back to a garage. You know, I'm not sure how to address all that and the monies that we have tied up in this thing. So it is kind of an unusual situation for a variance. You know, the whole project to begin with positive for the city of Gold Hill. You know, I just don't see the negative of letting this variance go through. So, does anybody have any questions?
Does any of the counselors have any questions?
Yeah.
I was thinking of a couple of questions. I don't think they're. I think they're non sequitur at this point. What are there any? Can you think of any other a real in your mind and play your own devil's advocate on this one? What would be a real a non-nebulous, serious objection to the development of the property as described?
What
you know what I mean?
What do I feel would be a negative?
What do you think is? What do you think is the driver for? Like you said, that's the traffic is a nebulous one. What do you think is the non-nebulous objection to the property development? I don't know if you know where I'm going with this.
I don't see a negative to it, and I know a lot of people have done a lot of construction. I've been involved with a little bit. If you go to a house that has a field right next to it, an open lot, and you ask them whatever they want to build on it, 8 times out of 10 they're going to object to anything that's being built before it's built. You know, that's human nature. I think we don't want to change this. I think that's just human nature. Not that they're the property owner, or you know, but I mean, if their druthers are, they'd rather say, let's not build anything. You know, they'd rather have the open field. I think that's human nature, but I don't think that's really what the city needs. We don't need more open lot. You know, the city we need money. We need tax dollars coming in. We need utility monies coming in. The benefit, like I say, to the town is the businesses. You know, as you know, I'm sold my business now, but as a business owner in the town, I mean, I cherish new people coming in. It just boosts my business when I was there. I mean, it's a positive all the way around. And like I said, the main objection was traffic, and they said, oh, parking on the street. It's all the parking's off the street. Those were the original objections. But the traffic, really, they go down in there and just sit there for half a day. There's minimal traffic on that road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's human nature. I think that's the negative. It's human nature to say, well, it's there. I don't want anything else there.
Well, I understand, and I'm concerned too that there are real, some neighbors have real concerns, and I don't really want to get into projected concerns about the situation here. So I think I'll leave it at that, Tom. I don't want to project any objections on anyone or from anyone. So I'll leave it at that, Tom. I appreciate your time on this, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does any other counselors have any questions? I have one, so go ahead, Malia. You're muted. Malia, you're muted.
I always do that. Sorry. So, Dr. Brooks, what was the date that you did your traffic study?
Oh, goodness. It was in the summer, so.
Okay. What day of the week was it?
We had our very first hearing, Malia, and I forget those dates. We did it before that because of that's what the objection letters that we were getting. We heard the objection was traffic. So we said, well, let's just do it. Let's sit down there and do it.
Okay.
And it's just minimal. It really is minimal traffic.
What day of the week and what time of day was it?
It was on a Friday, and it was 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning. So it's a morning traffic. You're going to get up, going to work, or
Yeah, okay, thank you.
As a counselor, I would like to say, I'm taking this whole thing because we didn't have a planning commission that was functional back then as a learning tool. And we can't undo things that we've already pushed forward on. So I see we have a dilemma here. I'm going to say for myself, this is a learning tool. We cannot leave no stone unturned. But now, because we've already allowed this to happen, does everybody, you know what I'm saying? We've allowed this to happen, and I say let's just move forward. This is my opinion on it.
Again, I'm sorry, Councilor Palmer, but we're not to the discussion part yet.
No, I thought that's what
We're still on A. We're still on.
We're still on
5A.
asking the applicant questions.
21, 5A,
Oh,
can I
model
make one statement?
council proceedings.
Can I make a statement?
This is your time to make a statement.
Yeah, well, it's just a comment, and I have nothing on the scenario with the planning commission, but you have 4 people on there that had never done that before, had no clue what was going on. If you guys watched that meeting on it, taking the time to watch that meeting, my character was accosted at least 4 times in that meeting. One before any information was given out. Where all that comes from, I have no idea, but, that's something that, as an outside person coming in, I'm not here to burn the city or anything. My city, I've been here for 35 years. And I felt that's exactly what happened to me, personal attack in that meeting. And it started before any information was even out. So my point of that is that planning commission doesn't know what the heck they're doing yet either. They got a lot to learn. They didn't even know the process of what was going on. So you got to take some of that with a grain of salt. What was happening there? So that's all I have to say about that.
okay. Well, let's move forward then. We'll now call on those who have signed up to testify in support of the applicant. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, or a group can select a spokesperson to speak longer for a total time allowed for this part of the hearing is 15 minutes.
We did originally have, I think, 5 or 6 people who wrote in letters of support, but none of them have chosen to appear here tonight.
Okay.
But there are supporters.
And you said they wrote in their support?
Yes, they were in the original packets. They each wrote a letter saying that they know what's going on.
Is there any way that
some of them live in the neighborhood? I can go over that list for you again if you'd like.
No, it would make it faster if you could probably CC all the counselors.
Yeah, you have them already, but it's okay.
All right. I have gone through them. I just didn't know if everybody else had them. All right. So we don't have anybody that's in support of. Does the council have any questions of the speaker?
What about those opposed?
Well, I think he was reading the next line for if there had been a speaker for the supporters.
Right.
Okay.
He's just following the script.
Now we'll call on those have signed up and testified against the applicant's position.
Can I say one more thing?
No, I'm sorry, we're past your part now.
Yes.
But you will have a chance to rebut after the opposition speaks.
Yes.
So you will get another chance.
All right.
And those that are against the applicant's position, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. A group can have a spokesperson that can speak for a total time of 15 minutes. Is there anybody there that opposes?
All right. You might need to say all that again once we pull him into the meeting, because there is someone waiting.
Okay.
Oh. Okay then.
So where do we go from there,
Danielle, I
Jessica?
can't hear you. Is Danielle talking? Her mic is. Danielle, we can't hear you, but your mouth is
Okay, sorry, I was clicked out. I'm saying maybe we want to wait a minute to see if he
Yeah,
comes
you know,
back,
I
if he
just,
dropped
I looked
off.
down at my phone and someone just called me. Maybe it's him. Hold on, let me see. Okay, yeah, it was him. I'm gonna call him back and tell him to get back on the line. Hey, you hung up before we called on you, and now we're calling on you and you're not there anymore. Yes, and that's what you were supposed to wait until we were ready to bring you in. And now we're ready to bring you in and you're not there anymore. Well, it's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube, just like you always can. No, that's how you call in and speak to us, but you still watch it through YouTube. Anyway, call in. We're waiting for you now. It's your turn to speak. So call back in and we'll let you right in. The same thing that's been said at the same meeting every single time we've had it. They want to build. You don't want them to. So now is your chance. So I guess the one that, if you're using the number that I gave Bill, then use that one. That's the one. Okay, we'll wait for you. Bye. Oh, I wasn't muted that whole time, was I?
No, you weren't.
Yeah, he wasn't going to call back in because he missed everything. But I told him just call back in anyway. We still want to hear you. So he's calling back in. Sorry about that. I'm just going to go mute right now. Mark, you're going to need to unmute your mic.
I guess I'm just going to read the last one.
Well, he's here now. So
okay, so he's listening.
He's listening. He just has his
Okay.
mic muted.
I can
Well, now,
unmute my
Mark,
mic.
yeah, there we go.
We're
Mark, are
now
you
gonna
there?
co-
Oh, he's muted.
I am here.
Okay, perfect. Your
Okay.
turn.
Well, I want to reiterate that, that because I haven't seen what was going on, I don't want to just kind of reiterate everything I've always said, but I did specifically put everything in writing that this zoning was not intended to be for high density zoning, and the purpose of the zoning says slightly higher than an R1 zoning. And additionally, this project has never gotten off the ground properly. The paperwork that I was sent about the appellant's appeal said that the project was was to remodel the downstairs of the second unit, and that never was a second unit to be remodeled down there. And if we would have ever had a second unit, that second unit would have needed a variance as well as before we would have ever gotten off the ground. And I can't imagine how the city insurance and the city fire marshal would allow you to build the second unit on the city street of Riverside Avenue. And I'm going to unmute and see if anybody's got any response to that. Somebody's comments?
Are there any questions on that? What are the questions on that, that building, the existing building that is on Riverside? Or, in other words, as far what, is Ryan still on with us?
Yes.
Okay, it might be a question for him. I mean, with that situation, with that existing building that is hanging on to Riverside, because I walk down there, I see it all the time. Excuse me. What? I mean, where was there an error there when that?
that building is like 110 years old. It was there before the street was.
Oh yeah, but for the permitting process for the remodel, yeah, because that's what it was to start with, was as Mark said, it was a permit to remodel a building that shouldn't have been. You know, I think that's where Mark is getting at. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I've always had a question about that too. You know, how we might have to leave it at the fact that it is 100 years old, and I've just had that question in my mind about this whole project for a while now. I think I'll let it go there. You know what I
Ryan,
mean?
did you want to say something about it?
Again, for the record, this is Ryan Nolan. The only thing I have to respond to Mr. Barrett and Mr. Bigney's questions are that, unfortunately, prior to Jessica and myself, there really aren't any records related to planning applications that have been kept at the City of Gold Hill. So we don't have any record of if there was ever an application to convert the garage to a living space. So the only application we're aware of is the application that's part of this variance hearing.
Okay,
right.
so
And okay, go ahead.
sorry, just to clarify. So they applied for 3 more water and sewer hookups, which to me implies that there was not a second
garage there with an apartment, and they turned the garage into another apartment.
Right. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out here is, so there was 1 unit with a garage there before they purchased it. Then they remodeled the garage into a second unit, which I think is what Mark and Bill are trying to get at, is that where is the permit for that initial second
So it was
dwelling
all
that was
one
added?
permit to begin with. There never was a separate one. This was all one big project. They bought the property with the full intentions of doing both buildings.
Right.
But that was never approved. That would have to be approved by the fire master. They have to come and do an inspection and the planning department has to approve it, that project was never appropriately approved.
I don't know what to say about that. The county does the permitting, and if they gave them the permit to build, why wouldn't they have done that?
That's correct.
Yeah, I have a question about the fire department. I mean, they are county, right? And they would be apprised of if they normally inspect every property that's has a permit application?
Yes, they do. I had to build 2 houses in the past 20 years, and I had to get approval from the fire department.
I thought as much. I figured as much. Yeah.
Brian, what's your input on that?
So as an example, if this were to move forward, the applicant currently has an application to remodel and build a total of 4 units there. As part of that approval, Jackson County will do the building inspection, which includes plumbing, electrical, and before final occupancy, their public safety and fire review the plans and potentially inspect the dwelling unit. So all of that will happen if somebody follows the correct building permit process, which most of that takes place at the county level.
So the fire marshal thing wouldn't have been until the end, not the beginning.
Correct.
I
There
don't
would have been
believe
a
that's correct. I don't
review
believe
of
that's
original
correct.
plans, review of original plans, and then inspection before final occupation is allowed.
And so before everything
Right.
gets going, they have to review the plans and sign off and then come back and inspect it.
So the fire department did review the plans and approve them, the initial plans. Right, Ryan?
Mr. Brooks can speak to that, but I believe that he does have final approval from Jackson County, but we don't necessarily get them back at the city stamped from the county. The applicant gets them once they're stamped by the county.
So if they're stamped by the county, that means they've passed the initial fire approval.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Not yet, not yet. Are there any other questions for Mark? You're muted.
If I could just have 1 second to review the plans that were submitted by Mr. Brooks that I have up on my computer, if I could just have a second to look at those documents, please.
Okay.
Okay, so the documents that I have are approved by Ryan Nolan of the city, Gold Hill City Hall, or Gold Hill, Oregon. I don't have anything that is stamped by the county, though.
Right, because like Ryan was saying, when they take them from here to the county gives them back to them, and they don't ever bring us copies, so, yeah.
But that's required for you to have a copy, isn't it?
I have a copy of what I approved, but I mean, I give them approval to proceed. Whether they actually proceed is up to the county to give them permission. I don't ever have copies of those back.
So part of what I was hoping for at this hearing was before the Planning Commission had their hearing, we had a separate hearing on this very issue, and there were approved plans where council asked for copies of those plans. And I was really hoping we would have gotten those copies at this hearing.
Well, I took some pictures of them with my phone and gave them to use because they're giant.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all I have.
Is there any other, does the counselors have any other questions to the speaker? If not, let's move forward. The applicant will now have 5 minutes to any opposing testimony.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, I'm up.
Yes.
So I've built, what have I built? I've built 4 houses and 2 duplexes. The fire department will sign off on the property if requested by the city. I've never had a signature on any plan that I can recall of the ones we've done over the last, and I've taken 35 years to build the houses that I've built, been involved with. So that's not the case. You guys, the planning commission requested a fire sign off on, I was helping with Jerry and Karen Davis's property, which you guys probably aren't aware of yet, but went to the planning commission. They requested that fire department sign off on the access to the property on the driveway. It's a long driveway. So that's the request that was done. I have county permits, which you guys apparently don't get, but we get a permit card we got to hang up, and they sign up off on them on each stage that they sign off on. Now they're electronically plugging them in, and they're not even signing off half the time on my sheet when I've done them. But the county does that. But all those where we have the permits that were bought, paid for, we've had everything that's been done has been signed off. The rough plumbing, the electrical, the rough electrical, the sheetrock, the framing, the floor system, the new power. We had to change all the power units going from the outside of the building. That's all been signed off already on by the county. We have the completion we have to do at the end when we finish it. We still got stuff to do in there. We just went to a halt as soon as we were requested to halt. So, you know, all that permitted. It's all done just like any other house that's done. Nothing different about it than any other place. The problem we have was it was, you know, an oversight on our fault, my fault about the zoning. It was a major miss by Nolan. I mean, the city, you know, and Mark's correct in saying it's not zoned for that, and that's what we know now, but this is where we're at. It is a dilemma. It's not a who's right, who's wrong, this or that. It's like, where do we want to go as the city, you know? So we got to, you know, and we can throw out the negatives. So what happens if it's denied, you know, the liability for the city, and I never wanted to go down that road. So, you know, it's got to be a positive for everybody, you know, so it's, but anyways, the deal is, again, positive for the city in all aspects. You know, I don't see a negative whatsoever at all. So, any other questions? Any questions on the plans? You guys were just talking about, I couldn't jump in.
No.
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 Okay, well, at this time, does any questions from any counselors at this time? And if not, we need to hear from Ryan again, if he has any closing comments.
I have a question for Ryan. As far as the approval criteria, the second one, and I was just wondering if you could reiterate what you said earlier. The second one says that the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner. How I don't see how they're meeting that one. Can somebody tell me, Ryan, maybe how they might be meeting that one?
I think Mr. Brooks is probably the best to answer that, but if so, I would suggest that Mr. Brooks might be able to give you an explanation of how he feels that granting the variance would allow him to preserve the use of his property. So that's my suggestion would be the applicant should make that argument.
Is he allowed to talk? Yeah.
Okay, so as a property owner, you know, the variance is to utilize the space, you know, which meets criteria, and the the space that, and that's why I say what has to happen, we got to decide in the city, or we want more growth. Do we want, you know, higher density? Do we want lower income housing that people can rent, you know? And like I said, the benefits for the city are what they are. Increased tax
Dr.
base.
Brooks, this specific variance part that she's talking about is how it is the preservation enjoyment of your property rights, you know, like the fact that you've lost income because we've stopped building, and so that infringes on your rights, like that kind of thing.
Yes, it absolutely, and it's lost income. It's time and money. Just it has happened, but why it should change is it's the benefit to me also. I get to reap the rewards, you know, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line when it's finally paid for as an income producing property.
Okay, now that.
But it's, sorry?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know, but I mean, I think that's the rights of citizens that own property to utilize that. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, is there any other statements or comments?
I have a little bit of a problem with the third criterion, which is it basically states, if I'm not mistaken, it cannot be a detriment in any way to the neighborhood. Now, yeah, it's like that can have a subjective definition too. You know, I mean, it's not really clearly defined as to, you know, and again, it's up to the individual, the citizens around it to say one way or another whether or not it's a help or a detriment. But even the second one, the second criterion there that you just discussed is I mean, that seems like purely monetary here. You know, in
There's
in
nothing
this case.
wrong with purely monetary, though. I mean.
Oh no, I'm not saying it. So I mean, that's usually the reason that people buy and invest in properties is for, you know, long term, short or long term. So that one, but the third criterion, like I said, it's I don't see that. I don't see where the third criterion is a problem on this issue. I really don't.
I'm sorry, Councilor
I live
Rigby,
right
but
there on First.
If you
go
can't
ahead.
turn it into a question, we're not quite to the discussion part yet.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
in that statement, the benefits outweigh health or safety adverse effects. I mean, we're not putting a copper mine in there. You know, we're not putting a nuclear power plant on there. It's a residential area, and it's residential structures that are going up. You know, is that a detriment to anybody around there? I don't see that. The big argument was traffic flow, and it's, you know, in anybody's mind, the traffic flow is not maxed out in Gold Hill, especially on the back streets there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's a residential area.
So I have a question for Dr. Brooks. May I?
Yes.
Okay. So, Dr. Brooks, you said you want this to be a win-win. Can you think of any way forward, some kind of a compromise that would be a way forward, that would be a win for you and a win for the city?
Suggest a compromise.
No, I'm asking you to.
Yeah, I don't, at this point, I mean, you know, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what a compromise is. A compromise is waiting for a year now to get this thing done. I mean,
you said you wanted it to be a win-win, so.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It is a win-win. So we have, yeah, I mean,
the city doesn't.
I don't know how to address that. So I don't see that the compromise is what I guess you're getting to is there's somebody's going to object to any building that goes on down there. I think that's an objection. If the objection You know, because like I stated before, I think that's human nature, and that's what we see wherever we go. You know, I guess I don't see it as a negative on what the compromise is. I mean, I have, you know, the financial aspect. Yeah, it is one thing, but it is a real thing, and it's not just cost money wise, time and everything else. I guess I don't see what a compromise. You know, tear down because that building was built in 1910. Would you suggest I tear that building down and then we can readdress the whole
No,
thing?
I wouldn't, but we're not in discussion, so I was just asking the question. Thanks.
I have one question before we move on. Dr. Brooks, one of the reasons that I wanted to see the detailed plans was to see the entry and the exit point that you have planned for your property. One of the chief complaints in opposition that we have heard repeatedly is to the parking situation on that road. And I was wondering whether or not there were plans to actually pave out the entire area in front of the property that would not only allow for better access to your property, but also would potentially make safer parking for the residents around you. And I think that's the kind of compromise that perhaps Councillor Beachside was looking to see whether or not you would be willing to make. And without the detailed plans, I don't know what your plans are. So would you expound on that, whether or not you would be cleaning up, maybe graveling that area around your property?
Let me interrupt real quick before he answers. If you look at the petitioner's findings of fact and conclusion that I sent to you, page 13 is a layout of his property where you can see all 8 parking spaces are on his lot. It's not off-street parking. He has planned them all out, and they're on that document that you have.
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, go ahead and answer her, Dr. Brooks, but I just want to be sure she knew that it's all off-street parking.
Yeah, well, if she looks at that, it is all off-street parking. And I guess that's what you're asking. And there's 2 issues there. And what you're dealing with one of which I don't think you're thinking of is the way that everybody's going now, the other cities are, we want to minimize asphalt. We need places for water to drain. We do not have a storm drain system in that area. The more we put in asphalt and concrete, the more water is going to be everywhere in Ronald.
That is true. We are lacking in storm drains in that part of town.
Right. So I said asphalt and paving. What I meant was graveling. Sorry.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is make it where the parking is and into the houses, because gravel is hard on the interiors of places if everybody's tracking it in. I like to do that, but I would still like to minimize as much gravel as I can in ways for water to soak in the ground. And other municipalities, that's what they work for now. They are adamant about it. The less you do the concrete and asphalt, the better. But am I going to make it a nicer place? It will be nicer when it's done. And if there's any question, you can look. I have a duplex that's kitty corner to that. And if you would have looked at it 2 years ago and looked at it now, you can see how much nicer it is. And you can actually go up and look at other buildings I've put in the city here, and you can look at them and see what's done.
I have personally been in 5 of his properties, and they're all nice properties.
You can go up to Brad's place. You've been up to, where Brad's living? That's actually my house. I built that house. You can go up to Jacoby and 7th. We put a house in right on the corner up there. You can go look at that house. We've got a house and a duplex down there on 4th Avenue there. Or 2nd Avenue, I'm sorry, down there. So, yes, I'm not into having a big mud hole and all that. It'll be much nicer, but you address the asphalt, and that's where you want to go on the whole thing. I would not advise it. Nobody else would advise it. It's worried about where the water's running. So. And I encourage you to go look at the houses I've done.
I believe we've lost Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, he just texted me. His computer lost the signal. I'm going to send him the phone number. That
street is a parking you know, everybody's parking. There's no garages on that street, that block. If you look at all those houses, everybody parks on the street. We made a point of making this so we don't add to that problem. The parking is off the street, and the way that the three off of First Avenue is, those 3 parking spots will eliminate anybody from parking on the street there because they have to get in and out of those parking spots. The ones that are inside the internal parking area, they'll come in and they'll come out. So it's really, you know, it's not going to affect the parking on that street whatsoever. So.
Yeah. Yeah, as you know, Tom, I live right down there on First Avenue as well, and there's the parking thing is tough. It's
yeah. Do you ever have to look both ways when you walk out of your driveway?
Oh, well, no, well, my driveway's actually, no, it's on a dead end, actually. So, on the downriver side of the house is on, basically on Riverside, you know, right there on the bend.
I was just teasing.
But I hit golf balls across the street, foam balls across there all the time, and I've yet to be hit by a vehicle.
That's a safety issue. We don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Anyway,
All right.
guys,
Does anyone else have any other questions for Dr. Brooks? Okay.
No.
Well, then while we're waiting for Ron to rejoin us, we'll defer back to Ryan for any closing remarks.
I don't have anything else unless there are any specific questions.
You know, I'm staff too, and I feel like I should chime in. I just want you all to consider that we created this mess and he would never have proceeded down this path. And I think that this is just another one of those things that we have been cleaning up together over the last couple of years. This is just another one of those that's hanging out. I think that we did create this variance issue ourselves. And not that money is everything, but it will cost us a lot of money. And yes, there are people opposed to it, but just as many people wrote letters of support as they did to opposition. Just because the supporters haven't been as vocal as the opponents doesn't mean they don't exist. I have letters from all of them. I've sent you copies of all of their letters. And in the last couple of years, you turned this industrial zone into residential so we could build houses. You turned the Grange into a residential zone so we could build houses. You obviously want the city to grow, and this is just another part of it. I have been in his houses. He builds nice quality houses. They're not going to be a detriment to anything. The big argument was traffic. All of the parking is off street. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, and I think it's going to help everything if we just approve this and move along with our lives. But it is your decision. You do what you feel is best for the city. But I just want to say that I'm in support of the development.
So I want to say traffic and parking are two different things. There's parking off street. That's great. It's not going to be all asphalt. That's great. So it's not just a runoff plain. The parking study was done in the middle of a pandemic. You know, nobody was going to work this summer. And it wasn't a very scientific study.
Yeah, but to his point, none of our back streets are really that heavily traveled.
We're talking 4 to 8 cars. How much traffic could that possibly cause?
Yeah,
I believe this should be saved for discussion, guys. We're not in the discussion portion. The hearing is still open. We need to close the hearing and move to discussion.
I stepped away and thought we moved to discussion.
Yeah.
Stop.
Is he on the phone yet? I sent him all the information to call in. Yeah or no?
Can you not hear him? Sorry, no, there's nobody waiting on the phone.
Okay, let me call him and see what his deal is. I'm going to mute my phone this time.
Is this chit chat time? Hey,
Okay.
I just want to say.
No,
The clerk
no,
is
I'm
looking
sorry.
good.
You can't talk anymore.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Okay, so he is calling in right now. He was trying to get his computer to come back on, but it's just not, so. Boy, if somebody tuned in right now, they'd be like, wow, there's just a bunch of people sitting quietly.
Doesn't happen near enough.
No, it doesn't. We should all take time during the day to just sit and be quiet. There we go. Yay!
I am here.
All right, cool. So I think we finished all of the questions and the staff report. And yeah, we're ready for you to proceed with
So-
closing.
Well, the only one is there any consensus to continue or to close the hearing?
I think everybody pretty much agreed we're ready to close the hearing.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we need to
okay.
close this to the public then,
Yes.
Jessica. So it is now closed to the public. So how does that work? We're just gonna call, do I call a time? That this meeting's closed to the public? Which
Yeah, the
is
public hearing is closed at 19:31.
19:31. Now, how would the council like to move forward on this? Do you want to do deliberations or discussions or decisions?
So,
Or is there a motion?
am I supposed to?
Pardon me?
They're supposed to shut me off. Are you guys supposed to shut me off?
The meeting?
Yeah.
He's moving him now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying, we need to mute him.
There's a bit of a delay. Sorry.
I didn't want to kick him out. I just wanted to mute him so he could hear the results, but
Oh, sorry.
yeah, he's not going to know what happened now.
Go on YouTube and watch it.
Yeah, good. So we're waiting for a motion to approve or continue, or what were the three choices?
Well, so we decided to close it and now we're going to discuss it. Because if you'd wanted to continue it, you would have done that while it was still open.
Yes.
Okay. Or, yeah. So we could have discussion or we could move to a motion, actually, couldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
As far as discussion goes, I'll say what I was saying out of order a few minutes ago. I'm still concerned about traffic. I really am. It's so dense down there and there's no place for kids to play. Kids are going to be darting in and out of cars and traffic. It's just, I think it's an unsafe situation. They did their traffic study, which was not very scientific, but that's okay. But it was, in the middle of a pandemic when nobody's going to work. So it doesn't really tell us very much. That's a piece of evidence that I think is not very useful. That's my main concern. I just don't think it's safe. It's a public safety issue. That's too many. It could be up to 8 cars. And then, yeah, they're parking off the street, but they're still coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. People on average, if you look at the national traffic statistics, people with cars come and go from their houses an average of 7 times a day. That's 8 times 7, that's 56 trips. That sounds like a lot to me, but it's going to really add to the traffic density in that neighborhood. And that's all I have to say about it.
But as it is right now, if it were to be completed legally, there would still be 4 cars there. So either way, yeah, it's still going to be an increase.
It's 4 versus 8, it's twice as much.
I understand your concern. I see it as revenue coming in for the city. And as far as the traffic, I'm on that road all the time. It's congested, period, because people do park on the streets. I've seen there's 2 big travel trailers that are parked one's right in front of the museum, actually, right now. And across the street, the lady that owns that has 2 little boys that are constantly. I think that we're aware of kids playing in the street. We shouldn't be going more than 15 miles an hour up and down those streets in the first place. I mean, but I do understand your concerns when it comes to well-being of children and pedestrians. But I see it as a plus for the city. No matter how we look at this, we're going to gain revenue, one in taxes and one in water and sewer.
So my issue with the traffic and the parking congestion, I live on 2nd Street, down by the school, where there is limited street parking. As a matter of fact, most of the street parking is on my side of the road. I have neighbors on either side of me that have driveways. As a matter of fact, my neighbors to the left of me have enough room for 4 cars in their driveway. And yet every single time they have guests or they have a party, all in front of my house is taken up in parking. And they have room for 4 cars for their 2-bedroom house that's over there. And yet somehow I end up with 4 or 5 cars in front of my house. That's really my only concern, is not necessarily the residents that are there, but the additional street parking that's going to be taken by guests, by workmen, by a number of different people. That's really where my concern is that residents oftentimes in rentals have guests over. They have a lot of visitors. I know this from living in apartments myself and having limited parking. I was in an apartment complex in Charles Point where we were each allotted 2 parking spaces, and yet somehow all of the street parking was taken up by guests. That additional parking is an issue.
Is there any other questions or comments?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Well, I don't. I'd like to see this move on, but I'm just one person, so I'm not quite sure where we're going with this, Jessica. But
So I also sent you a list of some potential motions.
that I did not get. Hold on.
I can make the motion. May I?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we affirm the decision made by the Planning Commission.
Second?
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion before roll call? All right. Counselor Palmer,
No.
Counselor Hinckley,
Sorry, yes.
Counselor Wilson,
No.
Counselor Bescheid,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
No.
Excuse me, I have a question about this. Does Mr. Palmer get to vote
Yes,
He
I
does.
do.
acting as mayor?
I'm not
he's
the
not
mayor.
mayor, he's council president, just running the meeting. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
he does get to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion did not pass. Do I hear another motion?
I'd like to make a motion to pass the variance.
I'll second.
You mean
It's
to-
actually,
can't do that?
I don't have the motions in front of me. It's to, what's the word, Ryan? To deny the,
Reverse the planning commission decision.
reverse the planning commission decision.
I'll make the motion. I move that the city council reverse the planning commission denial of file VR 2002 to permit a variance from the standards of table 1720.110A and allow for 4 units to be built on lot zoned R2 located at 420 First Avenue.
Second.
Can I request the grounds on that? We have to state what grounds that the planning commission was in error in order to make that motion.
I'm not
Where
sure.
are you, why do you say that?
It's in Ryan's instructions that if we are to make a motion overturning their decision, we have to state where they were in error in their decision.
Is that true, Ryan?
Ryan's,
Yes, so that's based on, they found that the application did not meet criteria A or C. So if you're going to reverse that, you need to explain why you think that they have met criteria A, B, and C.
Okay. So I feel that, let me open A, B, and C because I don't have it in front of me. Hold on.
A is that there are exceptional circumstances for this particular property.
And I feel that there are, because it has been approved already and they have spent a lot of money already proceeding forward and implementing their plans that the city approved and the county approved. So I feel that those are exceptional circumstances.
Okay, B, that the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights of the petitioner.
And I also feel that that's true. It's in the long run, it's monetary, but it is a fact. It'll be money into his pocket, and that's a win for him. And the last one would be, I don't feel that there's any detriment. I don't feel that traffic is an issue. I don't feel that parking is an issue, and there's nothing physically that's going to hurt these people by it being there. So I feel like he's met all three of them.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other discussion before I call the roll? Okay, Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley,
No.
Counselor Beshad.
no.
Okay, motion passes. All right, well, thank you all for getting through this again, one way or the other. We'll see what the next round of it is. Let's move on to the next thing on the agenda.
Yes.
Ryan, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Good to see Councilor Hinckley in the flesh. So good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Okay, is the mayor around? Can we bring the mayor back in?
Yes, the mayor is. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, are we ready to move on to number 7?
7.1, yes.
7.1, council considerations, council seat vacancy. Could you provide the background there?
Sure, we have 2 applicants for our vacant council seat position, Bill Pierce and Eric Ginaw, and I have given them both instructions on how to call in so that you can speak to them both and ask them questions tonight, since you did request an interview with them. So we'll
There is
see.
nobody
Are you one of
currently
them?
in the waiting room.
What's that?
There is nobody currently in the waiting room, unless you want us to call them, which I'm not even sure. we can
No,
do
I
on
told
Zoom.
them to call in themselves. Oh, I actually told Bill I would text them when it was time. So let me text Bill real quick.
Okay, someone's just come in.
Yeah, that would be Eric Ginaw. And full disclosure, he's my husband. Okay. He's in, but he's muted. So if you guys have any questions for him.
So this is Eric. So
Yes, this is Eric on the line.
Eric, can
I
you tell
just texted Bill.
city councilor? Here? He's muted now. Oh, now he's there. Did he hear the question?
I'm not sure. Eric, can you hear us?
No.
Can you hear me
Can you hear
now?
me now?
We hear him now.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So
Anybody have a question for him?
I do. So Eric, why would you like to be on city council?
I just think that it's kind of time to be a grown up, and it's a good chance to help steer the city. Jessica kind of finally got the ship going in the right direction, and it's just time to get on board.
Where would you like to see this ship going?
Well, we obviously need to see growth and prosperity. That's the goal of everything, or it should be. Obviously we're not trying to grow into LA or anything like that, but there is room for growth, and the reality of the city, it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings to make a little bit of money.
Okay.
Eric, how long have you been a resident in Gold Hill?
As a resident,
I'm reading that you've been here all your life.
I grew up here, went to school here. I've been technically a resident of Gold Hill for about 20 years now.
Okay.
Right on. Eric, this is Bill Rigney. There wouldn't be any of the duties or any of the responsibilities that a city councilman has to hold that would interfere with your golf game, would there?
Yeah, my golf game doesn't exist, so we're good there.
There you go.
Eric, I have a question about the ethics involving the fact that you would be directly over your wife and how you would handle that in situations that directly affect personnel issues. You are aware that you would have to recuse yourself from any of those situations because there is no layer of separation between you and Jessica.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's always been a man of few words.
You're on camera.
Hey, any other questions?
Well, sure. Did somebody else? I don't want to dominate all the questions, but I can ask a lot of questions. So may I ask more? Okay, what particular strengths do you think you bring to the table that maybe somebody else? I mean, we have two applicants, so why should we choose you or over someone else?
Well, you should choose me because of my forward thinking and my youth.
Tell us more about your forward thinking.
Well, I'm not sure, where you guys are on the history of Gold Hill, but dude, this town should be dead. Okay, it's been stuck in a rut for a long time, and it just needs to be moving forward, or it's going to die. That's the reality of the situation. You've seen the way the economy is this year, and if something doesn't change, we won't be the only town that dies. Okay.
How can we keep it from dying?
By allowing it to grow, bringing in business, bringing in housing.
So to grow, do you think we need to enlarge the urban growth boundary?
Not necessarily. I don't think we're even close to that part yet. And I assure you that the people on the outskirts of that proposed boundary don't really want it yet.
Mm-hmm. So when you say growth, you're talking about infill.
Yeah, there's, like this meeting was about before, it's like the resistance to grow like a duplex. The position that this town's in and the room that we have, it really should just be used in like duplexes and multiplexes. We only have so much footprint, and it's just math, dude. It's a dollars per square foot thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's counselor, not dude.
We're all grown ups here.
He's right on.
Eric, it's Bill again. We've got some pretty good projects going on, and well, like the beach cleanup that we all got to look at the other day, and other things like that. What other things would you want to help us shove the agenda for as far as the growth goes? Because we do have the Parks Master Plan, and that's a done deal. So let's get that going, et cetera. Where specifically would you like to start? As far as making small improvements at a time, I say. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously we have to play to our strengths to begin with, which is the river and the beach park and the things like that, and I mean, the way that this season goes here, and we have the kayakers for the full season, but we got to be honest, the season's primarily going to be summer. So we kind of need to take advantage of those kind of opportunities with the beach and the rafting and the revenue that comes in from, food and drink and that kind of stuff. Also, with the sports park, there's no reason I don't think we couldn't grow the sports park to have, live music and use it for a venue like that. Obviously we have kind of some vandalism issues going on now, but it's really not that big of a thing to kind of keep that cleaned up and use. I use it as a public occasionally. The basketball courts are nice. I don't play tennis or anything like that, but it's just nice to have the facility and use the money to keep that clean, to bring those people in here. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to go somewhere that's dirty and dilapidated. There's plenty of other places you can go that are nice, and the reality is it doesn't cost that much to make it look pretty. And if we can bring in money, and I'm sure you've heard it before, there's no reason we can't, not that I want to be Jacksonville, but there's no reason that we can't be, kind of more on that level. We have that historical value going, and like I said, we can use the river for the tourism and things like that. So that's kind of where my immediate vision is, but it just, everything kind of snowballs because, you're looking at this and then this blows up and that happens and this and that. So you just kind of have to be ready for the opportunities that present themselves, I guess.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the
There you go.
Sorry, Malia, you say that again?
What do you think about the Whitewater Park?
Again, I think we need to play to our strengths. I mean, I think that I definitely don't have any opposition for it. It's, obviously we're just in a position where you kind of have to allow growth. You're going to have some growing pains, and that's just how things go. You grow, you fix, you grow, you fix, you grow, you fix, and adjust.
Okay, thank you.
Very well put.
Any other questions? Do we have Bill waiting?
Oh, Bill.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time,
Thanks, Eric.
Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Can somebody call them?
Yeah, I texted him and told him it was time.
Hmm.
I'll call him again. Oh boy, I'm getting good. I'm gonna mute.
Quick learner.
He didn't answer.
Well, then we move on without him then?
That's not up to me.
Is that up to me?
I it's kind of up to the council as a whole to decide if you have enough information to make a decision or if you want to wait. I mean, I did tell him that I would text him. I gave him long instructions on how to be here for this meeting.
Well, I would consider the potentiality of waiting until next meeting based solely on the fact that that public hearing took 2 hours. I mean, if we start at 6 and they're thinking they're going to be coming in like an hour and then it's 2, like I can definitely see
Well,
where
he
they're
was
like.
actually, Mark told me when I called him on the phone, you all heard, he was there with Mark. So he was watching the meeting. He knew what was going on. So.
I feel like if he really wanted to be a part of this, he should call in. I don't think we should move it. He knew that it was his term was coming up, and if he had to wait an extra half hour or an hour, then he had to wait. If you're in line for a job interview, you don't get up and walk out because the person's late to interview you. So.
Yeah, true.
No compelling reason to hurry.
That's true too.
Other than we do have a lot of work to do and we'd like a full council.
I'd like to make a motion. Can I make a motion?
You absolutely can.
I'd like to make a motion that we, that Eric, what's his last name?
Gina.
Eric Gina be fill the open council position.
Well, I will second that. I will second that.
It's been
Excuse me.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Counselor Palmer.
Yes.
Counselor Bescheid.
Yes.
Counselor Rigney.
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley.
No.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We will swear him in at the next meeting. And just for the record, this vacancy is only to be filled until the next election, at which time we will hold an election. So I have the dates. I'm going to notice it. I don't have to notice it until like the end of the month, but candidate filing will begin on February 8th, and the filing deadline is March 18th. So I'll be noticing you of all those dates as we're coming up. And I'll talk about this again later when we get to the goal setting section.
If you can like email me those details so I can put them up on the website, that would be great. That way everybody's.
Yeah, I just printed it straight off the county website.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, 7.2, the sports park RV host. I think this idea has been batted around for a while. The idea being there's some substantial frustration of our outdoor folks, Tony and Shannon, putting in picnic tables and painting bathrooms to turn around and sometimes a short period later them being destroyed. So there's a lot of frustration in that our improvements are really not netting any improvement. It's kind of like having a dormitory assistant to keep the unruly college kids in line. If there's an adult in the park, I think it would be quite a substantial incentive and deterrence for the hooligans not to be doing dumb stuff like they're doing, like destroying our bathroom. So that's number one. And number two, again, back to one of our core problems of we have lots of things we'd like to do and really not the budget to execute them. I think that this would allow us to more fully capture the revenue that we should be out of the sports park, both from the boat ramp. I think boat ramp receipts today were $60 for 3 weeks. So, $20 a week. I don't know what the actual number of users were, but I'll bet you it was twice that. And then also park entry folks coming in to use the skate park. I think very few of them pay their fees. With an adult in the park, I think we'd have less of that. And importantly, I think it gives us a lot of confidence. This is a great time with our Parks Committee getting ramped up. And we're looking forward to great things from them as we execute the park master plan. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense if a few weeks later they're destroyed and returned. So that's why I think it makes a lot of sense to create this position. There'd be a little bit of costs up front, pouring a slab and doing the trenching for utilities. the site that's proposed would be close to the existing, between the basketball court and the bathroom. So the amount of trenching and ducting work is minimal. There's going to be some cost, but it won't be much. And then ongoing, the cost would be very minimal. So I think for a fairly modest investment, we would get a presence there in our crown jewel, which would allow us to be okay with spending more money and making improvements with the assumption that they're not going to be reversed immediately.
So as someone who hears the reports of the graffiti and vandalism on a daily basis, when the mayor first brought this idea up to us, we got really excited about it because we can do things like the park host can actually close the gate at night and not let people in there after dark to mess around. It sounded like a great idea, so I went ahead and talked to our insurance company about it to see if there was any risk for us having someone live in our park. And they said, please go for it. It's a great idea. Lots of cities do it, and it really does cut down on your insurance risk. So the insurance company was completely behind the idea. We recently had the guys come out to the bathrooms that are in the park to pump out the holding tanks there. And while they had everything dug up, the guys went over and inspected it so they could see how easy it will be for us to pipe it in. And it turns out it's going to be really easy to do. So setting up the utility piping is going to be easy as well. So I think it's a big win, having someone that can police our parks for us. You know, a lot of parks do this, and you barely have to pay them anything because they get to live there rent free. But yeah, go ahead.
I believe this is an inappropriate venue for this to be brought up. This should be brought up to Budget Committee as well as the Parks Committee before it's brought before the council. This has not been budgeted for yet, and we have the Budget Committee that is upcoming. And so therefore, all of these costs and everything should be brought to the Budget Committee to determine whether or not we can afford this in the coming year. It might be cheap, but when everything is spent and there's no more money left, it doesn't matter if it doesn't cost $2. We don't have the money. So I think that this needs to be brought before Budget Committee before it's brought to the council.
Okay, I wanted to put it on the agenda and give you guys a heads up because I'm definitely going to put it in the budget for next year because I think it's a great idea. So now you know about it.
I'd like to see a report just about that. What is that little project going to cost? What are we going to do these people?
I'm going to bring actual numbers to the Budget Committee and so that you can approve it because you're absolutely right. It is something we need to allocate for. Like everything should be allocated for.
Thanks.
Jessica, can you tell us what the damage was the last time that the bathroom was busted up? What did Tony have to replace?
Which time? The time they kicked out the vent and the door to the storage room, or the time that they ripped the padlock off of the other bathroom, or the time that they broke the toilet off of I don't know which time you're talking about. It's something different every day. It's ridiculous.
That sounds like $1,000 an accident. So that's what, $5,000, those three last incidents. So we really are talking about a substantial amount of additional maintenance costs that with an adult, we probably are not going to have.
And I understand that, but if this council continues to spend money without going in front of the Budget Committee and requesting that money be set aside for that reason, then why have a Budget Committee at all?
I agree, 100%. It will be on your doorstep when you are in your Budget Committee mode.
Any other thoughts, comments?
I think it's a great idea. I hope we can manage to work it into the budget.
Yeah.
Then I agree on both sides. It does need to go through the parks and budget. However, we're just talking right now. It sounds good to me. I mean, if anything that we're going to move forward and it's positive for this town and the citizens of this town, I'm for.
Would this person be tasked with going out and making sure people have paid their parking fees or their park fees?
Yeah, we could also make them be a code enforcement officer as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually really love the idea. I love the idea of getting plumbing and power out there because I would like to see a food truck pallet eventually possibly put out there.
It'll go right
next
to our big bandstand where we're going to have live music. I mean, this thing's going to be great.
But it does need to go in front of the budget committee.
Yeah.
So we wanted to air this, get people's initial reactions. We'll look forward to some real numbers, I think, from Tony and the gang on costs, upfront and ongoing, and look forward to seeing where it goes.
Maybe also in that report, it'd be good to know if we could see, how much has been spent on repairs. So over the
Okay.
last year or so. If you can pull that number out, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, moving on, 7.3, 21 goal setting.
Okay, so I put this on here because I thought you might like to come up with some goals for the year. I wanted to start by telling you my goals for the year. There's no easy way to say it, so I'm just going to say it. My goal for the year is to step down from the city manager position. I would like to stay on as the recorder and still keep doing some of the things that I'm doing now. But what I wanted to tell you about is the reason why I feel it's okay for me to step down now. I've started making kind of a list of the things that I've done in the last year and a half since I've been here. We got all of the 17-18 audits done, the 18-19 audits done, and I plan to have the 19-20 books to the auditor by the end of this week. Yeah.
Nice.
It's been brutal. I'm so glad to be at the end of it. We got the court up and running. It's still, we have learned through the process of running it that we still have some things to fix. And that's one of the things that I plan on staying on and fixing, is continuing to work on overhauling our code book to make it more in line with what modern people do. We don't just charge $25 fines for, well, anyway, our code book is old and out of date. So we're still going to work on that. But the court is up and running. I got us a judge. I got us a court. It's happening. You may not recall because it's been a year and a half, but the first thing I did when I got here was got all of the utility billing fixed. There were 565 meters in this town. 30 of them weren't even being billed at all. I ended up fixing 365 out of the 560 accounts because there was something wrong with them one way or the other. But today, all of the bills are going out and they're all correct, and the meters are actually being read and no one's making up numbers. Like, I'm still pretty proud of that. Like, we're getting it together there. And the software, we finally got through all of the mini learning curve, horrendous. I don't even know what to say about that. The software is working great now. Everything is going smoothly there. We've got committees in place now and commissions, and they're all doing their own things. We got all of our master plans approved in the last year. You guys have been doing some work, and I have too. I think we're in a good place now, and I'm not ashamed to invite a city manager to come interview for this job because I think they're going to be happy with what they find here. Like, we got our act together. So I'm going to dial back my portion of what I'm doing, but I still want to keep working on the things in the past that still need to be fixed. We need a city manager who can focus on continuing down this path and taking the city forward. And in the meantime, I can be in the background getting our code book up to date. The first thing that I want to do is, like I said, the election is on May 18th this year. I want to have our newly revised charter on the ballot in May. So approximately around that same time, you guys will be hiring a new city manager, and they'll be functioning under a charter that actually refers to a city manager. Our charter was written 52 years ago. It's time for an update. So that's my number one project after I'm done with the books here. I'm going to start working on that. So prepare to see all kinds of notices about that. And maybe we should even have like a charter creation committee made up of some residents to give input so that we can come up with a good charter. I'll continue on as the recorder and taking the minutes at all the meetings and keeping the books and being the court clerk and continuing just chipping away at getting City Hall in order. But I'll be able to focus on that because there'll be a city manager steering the ship forward while I'm like cleaning up the storerooms. Yeah, that's a good metaphor.
Do you have a date that you would like to set as the day that you would like to see a new city manager hired so that you might step down back into the recorder position alone?
Yeah, you know, and like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to live here. This is still my town. I still want to help. I was thinking by the summertime, and hey, that's when our fiscal year starts. So maybe I finish out this fiscal year. That's like a good cutoff. So, and that way we can set the budget appropriately for what happens at that point. That was what I was thinking. And that will give you
really
plenty
like
of
it if you
time
could
to
stay
do
to
a
the end of the
good,
fiscal
thorough
year.
search. And that's the other thing too. After doing this job, I know what it takes to actually be a city manager. So I know the right questions to ask when we have an interview. So I hope you let me sit in on the interview process with you, because I know what I'm going to ask about.
Jessica, thank you so much for all you've done. I'm just so impressed and so amazed and very, very grateful. And I think every citizen of Gold Hill, if they knew what you've done, would be bowing down to you. You know,
Well, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, it's just like when I served in the military. It's my duty to my community. I have the ability to fix it, and I was in the right place at the right time, and I'm happy to do it. But I'm also happy to step down from it now that it's done.
If you step down as city manager, you would stay on as recorder. Is that what
Yes. You know, if you'll have me, obviously you can me at any time and pick somebody else. But yeah, I'd like to dial back my hours some eventually and just be here. You know, once this is all running smoothly and you have your own city manager, there's no reason for me to be here more than once or twice a week to keep the books up to date, to show up to the council meetings and record the minutes, you know. But I'll still be working in the background and helping with the transition. So.
Didn't you tell me you wanted to be bailiff too?
Well, I'll be the court clerk, so kind of, yeah. I'm always packing anyway. I'll be the bailiff.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So those are my goals for this year. You know, you probably have your own ideas in mind for what you want to do this year, but I want you to know where I'm headed this year. I'm not leaving you. Don't panic. There's been panic. Don't panic. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to ease out of this however long it takes, but preferably by July 1.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to stay on that long. That's hard when you really have, you know, your heart and your mind set on doing something a little different, but you got to keep doing what you're doing for a while. So
well, I've done so much work here. I don't want to step away and watch it all fall apart again. I want to make sure that the city is still heading the right course. So.
And we appreciate that, and that's foremost in our minds too. We don't want to slide back and lose some of the gains that we've made under your management. Anyone else like to share their goals coming up next year?
You know, I would prefer to table this discussion. It's really late. And it's a really big topic. You know, what
I will absolutely put this on the next council meeting agenda. You guys have time to think about what it is you want to pursue this year.
Maybe have a work session just around that and keep it from
We can do that rather than have a second council meeting this month, because I don't have much on the agenda. We can make the next meeting a work session.
Just make it a discussion goals and
Yeah, so that would be on the 19th because the 18th is a holiday. So it would be on a Tuesday, the 19th.
And the planning commission is the 26th, not the 19th. Is that right? I know
yes, that's right.
Okay. That works for me.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'll schedule that work session then for 6 p.m. on the 19th.
Tuesday, the 19th.
Tuesday, the 19th.
Okay. Anyone else have any reports you'd like to make it this time?
Well, I have the beach cleanup is moving along, maybe a little bit slower than it could, but it is moving on. And by the summertime, that beach is going to be beautiful, and with the rest of the parks too. We'll keep working on it. I'd like to be getting in a little tighter with Richard and the Parks and Beach Commission to see what more I can do down there too.
That reminds me, a couple of things I forgot to say. The Parks Committee is meeting at 2 p.m. this Wednesday, also a Zoom meeting. And I think Carol wanted me to say something about Christmas. Thank you to everyone who helped out with Christmas. The winners of the decorating contest were the Trouts at 624 Estramato and One Stop Real Estate. And I think the whole town looks spectacular this holiday season. It really worked out great. So thanks to everyone who helped make that happen because it looked awesome.
It looked really
I
It
good.
did.
really
It looked
like the
very
light
good.
poles.
The polls were great, weren't they?
They look like candy canes when you're coming down the road. It was really neat.
Yeah, special shout out to Carol Holmes. She really helped everybody pull it all together. She kept us on track.
And again, that kind of points out that there's quite a number of things we can do that doesn't have to hit our budget too hard, but make a big difference. Growing up in Ashland, they always had banners that they rotated every quarter. Banners and flowers go a long way. So let's keep doing what we're doing. Any department reports?
I think I've about covered everything already.
Okay. Any
I
good
think
of the
everybody's
order?
ready to go.
Yeah. Yep. Any good of the order comments?
Janet, your mic is off.
Thank you. I met the new owners of the gas station today. So they're going to be reopening it as a gas station and a little market, just gum and stuff like that. So just FYI, the gas station's coming back.
Cool.
Did you make sure to tell them to come get a business license?
No, but next time I see him, I'll make sure I let him know.
Okay.
Right on.
We're gonna have a gas station downtown.
Nice.
Very good.
Very nice. Very good.
Thanks for the work tonight, and this meeting's adjourned.
Night.
Thank you.